What is fire? A mere flicker of light consuming wood and oil, or a living spirit, breathing in oxygen, dancing with color and vanishing into smoke? For ancient cultures across the world, fire was not simply a tool. It was a messenger of the divine, a sacred presence that connected heaven and earth. To them, fire was alive. It had hunger. It had movement. It had the power to both create and destroy. Imagine a time before electricity, before gas lamps, before the modern world's flood of artificial light. Nightfall brought with it an abyss of darkness. Then someone struck stone against stone or watched lightning split the sky and ignite the forest. Suddenly, there it was, fire, a miracle that turned the void into vision, a warmth that pushed away the cold, a light that held back the terrors of the night. And in that moment, humanity understood this was no ordinary thing. This was sacred. Across continents and centuries, fire became the heartbeat of ritual and worship. In Zoroastrian temples, sacred flames were kept burning without interruption, for fire was seen as the very essence of truth, purity, and divine presence. In Vedic traditions of India, fire, Agni, was the priest of the gods, carrying offerings upward from the human realm into the celestial. The Greeks told stories of Prometheus, the titan who stole fire from the heavens and gave it to humanity, a gift so powerful that even the gods felt threatened. And in countless tribal cultures, from the Americas to Africa, the fire circle became the center of storytelling, ceremony, and initiation. Why did these cultures, separated by oceans and epochs, all come to the same conclusion that fire was divine? Was it merely practical, or did they see something we have forgotten? In this video, we will journey into the mystical and symbolic dimensions of fire. We will explore how ancient peoples saw it not just as flame, but as a cosmic force, the light of consciousness, the purifier of the soul, the eternal witness. We will look into myths and teachings that guarded the secret meanings of fire, and we will uncover what fire can still teach us today, if only we learn to see with ancient eyes. For fire is not only the blaze upon a hearth or the flame upon a candle, it is also the spark within us, the burning of inspiration, the fire of love, the fire of willpower, the inner light that guides us through the darkness of ignorance. The ancients knew this truth. To tend fire outwardly was to tend fire inwardly. To neglect fire was to invite ruin. So, let us return to the mystery. Why was fire worshipped by ancient cultures? What secrets does it hold about the human spirit, the cosmos, and the eternal struggle between creation and destruction? Stay with me as we step into the glow of this ancient wisdom and rediscover the sacred fire.
To truly understand why fire was worshipped, we must step into the mindset of the ancients, people who did not separate the natural world from the spiritual. For them, every element was alive. The earth had memory, the waters carried emotion, the winds whispered divine messages, and fire was the very breath of transformation. In India's Vedic scriptures, fire was personified as Agni, the divine messenger who bridged mortals and immortals. When priests placed offerings into the flame, clarified butter, herbs, or grains, it was believed that Agni carried them upward into the heavens, delivering prayers to the gods. Without fire, there could be no sacrifice, and without sacrifice, there could be no cosmic balance. Fire was the axis upon which ritual revolved. It was not only a burning substance, but a sacred intelligence, a being that consumed but never died, for one flame could give birth to 1,000 more without diminishing itself. In Persia, The Zoroastrians built temples where sacred flames were kept burning continuously for centuries. These fires were not mere symbols, they were the presence of Ahura Mazda, the wise Lord, embodying truth, order, and light. For them, fire was the purest element, untouched by corruption. Even today, Zoroastrian fire temples maintain this tradition, treating fire as the eternal witness to every human thought, word, and deed. In Greece, fire was wrapped in myth and danger. The tale of Prometheus speaks volumes. He defied the gods by stealing fire from Olympus and gifting it to humankind. That theft was no small act. It was the bestowal of knowledge, creativity, and independence. But it also came with responsibility. Fire could forge tools and cook food, but it could also burn cities and devour forests. Thus, the Greeks understood fire as both blessing and curse, divine empowerment and divine punishment. Among the Celts, sacred bonfires lit during festivals such as Beltane and Samhain were believed to renew the land, cleanse the community, and open gateways between worlds. To leap over the Beltane fire was to invoke fertility and vitality. To carry a torch from the ritual fire was to protect one's household from misfortune. Here, fire was not just physical, it was magical, an elemental current running through the fabric of life. Even in indigenous traditions across the Americas and Africa, fire circles served as the heart of the tribe. Around the fire, elders spoke wisdom, shamans performed healing, and initiates underwent transformation. The fire was alive. It listened, it spoke, it remembered. It was said that when humans dance, sing, or pray around fire, the flames dance back, reflecting human devotion with cosmic acknowledgement. Philosophically, fire represented something far greater than its heat and light. It was the principle of transformation. Alchemists would later call it the agent of purification, the force that turns raw ore into shining gold, ignorance into wisdom, mortality into immortality. In Plato's philosophy, fire was associated with the stars, the celestial light that illuminated the cosmos. In Christianity, fire became a double-edged symbol, the flames of hell signifying judgment and destruction, but also the tongues of fire at Pentecost representing divine inspiration and spiritual awakening. Everywhere we look, fire sits at the threshold between opposites, creation and destruction, safety and danger, blessing and curse. To worship fire was to acknowledge this paradox, to honor the delicate balance that sustains existence. For the ancients, tending a flame was not just a physical act, it was a cosmic responsibility. If fire went out, it was not merely the loss of warmth, it was the loss of connection, of divine order, of sacred continuity. Thus, keeping the fire alive was keeping the soul of the people alive.
To begin unraveling why fire held such a central place in the spiritual imagination of ancient cultures, we must look beyond its physical qualities and into its symbolic essence. Fire was not merely seen, it was felt. It burned, consumed, purified, illuminated, and transformed. These qualities, so fundamental to fire's nature, became metaphors for the deepest mysteries of human existence. Let us start with the most obvious gift of fire: light. In a world where darkness was once absolute, fire became humanity's first sun at night. It pushed back the unknown, revealing shapes in the shadows and granting security against predators and unseen dangers. Symbolically, light has always stood for knowledge, truth, and consciousness. Just as a torch illuminates a cave, fire illuminates the human mind.
This is why in so many traditions, fire was equated with awakening. To kindle fire was to kindle awareness. But fire was not only light, it was also heat. Without it, early humans would have perished in the cold. Heat sustains life, allowing us to cook food, soften water, and endure harsh climates. Spiritually, this warmth became associated with the fire of the heart, love, passion, devotion. Just as fire gives warmth to the body, love gives warmth to the soul. Ancient mystics often spoke of the inner flame that burns within every being, a divine spark, a fragment of the cosmic fire that animates all life. Yet the same fire that nourishes can also destroy. One stray ember can reduce forests to ash, homes to rubble, civilizations to memory. Here lies the paradox. Fire is both creator and destroyer, protector and annihilator. This duality is why fire was worshipped. It mirrored the duality of existence itself. Life, after all, is born from destruction. Forests regrow after fire clears the land. Seeds crack open in heat. Old patterns must burn away for transformation to occur. The ancients recognized this truth long before psychology or ecology gave it words. Consider also fire's insatiable hunger. Unlike water or stone, fire never rests. It constantly seeks fuel, devouring wood, oil, flesh, or offering. To the spiritual eye, this hunger mirrored the eternal force of transformation, the cycle of death and rebirth. Every flame was a reminder. To resist change is to wither, but to surrender to the fire of transformation is to evolve. Fire also held a unique role in ritual and initiation. To pass through fire, whether literally or symbolically, was to be reborn. Think of the blacksmith whose forge turns raw iron into a sword, or the shaman whose initiation often involves trials of fire and heat. These were not practical processes alone. They were spiritual enactments of the great law. All transformation requires fire. And perhaps most profoundly, fire was seen as the breath of the gods. Notice how flames dance unpredictably, as though alive, responding to wind, rhythm, or intention. Ancient peoples believed fire was conscious, that it could listen and respond. The flicker of the flame was an omen, the crackle a message, the smoke a spirit rising toward heaven. Thus, the worship of fire was not superstition, it was recognition. Fire was the mirror of human destiny, fragile yet eternal, destructive yet creative, hungry yet life-giving. It represented the mystery of existence itself. To honor fire was to honor transformation, light, warmth, and the eternal cycle of death and renewal.
If the first layer of fire's mystery lies in its obvious qualities, light, warmth, destruction, then the deeper layers reveal themselves in how the ancients linked fire to the cosmos, to the human soul, and to the very act of creation itself. Let us begin with alchemy, the ancient science of transformation. In every alchemical process, fire was indispensable. Whether it was the smelting of metals, the distillation of essences, or the purification of matter, fire was the agent of change. Without fire, the alchemist could not transmute lead into gold, or refine base substance into spiritual essence. But on a deeper level, fire represented the inner alchemy of the human being. Just as the crucible purifies ore, the trials of life, our sorrows, passions, and struggles burn away what is impure and reveal the gold of wisdom within us.
To walk the spiritual path was to willingly enter the fire of transformation. In many mystical traditions, this is referred to as the inner fire or divine spark. The Upanishads of India speak of the fire within the heart, a flame that is not physical but eternal. Tibetan yogis developed practices known as tumo, or inner fire meditation, where adepts generate profound bodily heat and spiritual energy by visualizing flames rising within their core. Christian mystics, too, spoke of being set aflame with divine love, their hearts burning as though ignited by a celestial torch. This idea that each of us carries a fragment of the primordial fire is one of the most powerful spiritual teachings of all. But fire was not only inward, it was also cosmic. Ancient peoples gazed at the stars and saw fire everywhere. The sun, the eternal flame of the sky, became the most universal object of worship across civilizations. The Egyptians revered Ra, the solar deity whose fiery eye gave life to the Nile. The Aztecs conducted ceremonies to keep the sun nourished, believing that without human offerings, the cosmic fire would wither and the world would collapse. The Greeks saw Helios riding his chariot of fire across the heavens, while the Persians saw the sun as the very embodiment of divine truth. In all these myths, fire is not just an earthly phenomenon, but the very essence of the universe, the fire that burns in the stars, that gives life to the earth, that guides the cycles of time. One cannot overlook the sacred role of fire as intelligence. Unlike water, which flows downward, or earth, which lies still, fire is restless, unpredictable, alive. Watch a flame long enough, and you'll see why ancient mystics treated it as a living spirit. It dances, it consumes, it even seems to speak through its crackling voice. In oracles and rituals, fire was asked questions, and its movements interpreted as divine answers. The ancients believed that fire was not simply energy, it was consciousness, a fragment of the divine mind. This belief found echoes in the philosophy of Heraclitus, the Greek thinker who declared that all things are in exchange for fire, and fire for all things. For him, fire was the eternal principle of change, the hidden rhythm that underlies existence. Everything is born of fire. Everything returns to fire. And fire is the eternal logos, the intelligence of the cosmos. But what makes fire truly mysterious is its paradoxical nature. It is fragile, snuff it out with a breath, yet it is eternal, capable of leaping from one torch to 1,000 without ever diminishing. It is immaterial. You cannot grasp it, yet it shapes civilizations. It consumes everything, yet in its consuming, it reveals purity. This paradox made fire not just an element, but a teacher. To study fire was to study the laws of the universe, impermanence, transformation, and eternal renewal. So when we say the ancients worshipped fire, we must understand. They were not bowing to flames of wood and oil alone. They were revering the cosmic principle of transformation, the inner spark of divinity, the eternal intelligence that dances within creation itself. Fire was the doorway, the veil between the visible and the invisible, the mortal and the divine.
So far, we've explored fire as myth, symbol, and cosmic intelligence. But what use is all this knowledge if it remains abstract? The ancients never separated philosophy from practice. Fire was not merely contemplated, it was engaged with. They lit it, tended it, spoke to it, and allowed it to shape their lives. In the same spirit, we too can draw upon the wisdom of fire in our modern world. Let us begin with the simplest practice. Lighting a candle with intention. In almost every culture, from Christian churches to Buddhist temples, the act of lighting a flame has remained a sacred gesture. When you strike a match and ignite a candle, pause for a moment. Watch the flame rise from nothingness. Whisper into it a prayer, a wish, or a vow. This small act awakens your awareness of the inner spark, the consciousness that is always burning within you. The candle becomes a mirror of your soul. Next, we can engage with fire as a tool of purification. Just as ancient rituals offered herbs or incense to the flame, we can symbolically release what no longer serves us. Write down a fear, a resentment, or a limiting belief on a small piece of paper. Then, in a safe and mindful way, burn it. As the smoke rises, imagine that weight leaving your spirit. Fire consumes, but it also liberates. The ritual is not about destruction, but about transformation, the turning of pain into ash, and ash into fertile ground for renewal. For those drawn to deeper practice, consider meditating on the flame. Sit quietly before a single candle in a darkened room. Focus on the dance of the flame, its movement, its glow, its stillness at the core. Notice how it flickers with the smallest breath, how it reaches upward, how it both illuminates and consumes. This is not merely an exercise in concentration. It is a dialogue with fire. Allow the flame to teach you its lessons: impermanence, aspiration, transformation. With time, you may find that the outer flame awakens the inner one, an awareness of the quiet, luminous center within your being. Another powerful practice is connecting with the fire of breath. In yogic and meditative traditions, the breath itself is seen as a form of fire, prana, or life force. When you breathe deeply, imagine drawing in fire, a golden energy that fills your chest. When you exhale, imagine releasing smoke, the heaviness of tension, worry, or negativity. This simple visualization can ignite vitality, sharpen focus, and awaken a sense of presence. And let us not forget the communal fire. Gather with friends or family around a fire pit or even a candlelit circle. Share stories, sing, reflect. The ancients knew that fire was the center of community. It bound people together in warmth and light. In a world of digital distractions and artificial light, returning to the primal circle of fire can restore something profoundly human in us. Of course, we must also approach fire with reverence and respect. It is not merely symbolic, it is real, alive, and powerful. Safety and mindfulness are part of its worship. Just as the ancients maintained sacred fires with discipline, we too can practice responsibility in how we engage with this element. Finally, reflect on how fire manifests within you. The fire of the mind, which illuminates ideas and insights. The fire of the heart, which warms relationships with love and compassion. The fire of will, which gives courage to face challenges. By tending these inner fires, we continue the ancient lineage of fire worshippers, not by bowing before flames, but by recognizing and nurturing the divine spark that animates all life. In essence, the practical path is this: tend your fire. Keep your inner flame alive through meditation, creativity, devotion, and community. Guard it against the winds of despair, feed it with the fuel of purpose, and let it illuminate the darkness around you. For in doing so, you are not only honoring the ancients, you are honoring the eternal fire itself.
From the first spark struck in the caves of prehistory to the eternal flames burning in temples and sanctuaries, fire has always been more than an element. It is a living mystery, a force that shaped civilizations, inspired myths, and awakened spiritual truths. The ancients did not worship fire because they were naive. They worshipped it because they saw in it a mirror of the cosmos and of themselves. Fire
was light in the darkness, knowledge in ignorance, love in isolation, and transformation in stagnation. It was both the destroyer and the creator, both fierce and tender, both fragile and eternal. In every flame, they saw the dance of opposites, mortality and immortality, matter and spirit, the seen and the unseen. To worship fire was to acknowledge this paradox, to honor the sacred balance upon which life rests. We, modern inheritors of their wisdom, often forget this. Surrounded by electric bulbs and glowing screens, we take fire for granted. Yet the flame still speaks, if we are willing to listen. The candle still whispers of devotion. The hearth still radiates warmth and belonging. The bonfire still calls us into circle, into community, into the ancient rhythm of gathering. And within each of us, the inner flame still burns, urging us toward growth, passion, and renewal. The lesson of fire is simple, yet profound. Tend your flame. Do not let it die through neglect, nor allow it to consume you in recklessness. Feed it with purpose, direct it with intention, and let it light the way forward. The ancients guarded their sacred fires day and night, not only for warmth, but as an act of devotion to the eternal. Can we do the same with the fire within us? As you leave this video, I invite you to reflect, what is the fire that burns in your life? Is it the fire of love, creativity, wisdom, or courage? How will you tend it, protect it, and let it illuminate the path for others? Remember, fire is not only in the hearth or the temple, it is in your heart, your mind, your spirit, and to honor it is to honor the mystery of life itself. So the next time you strike a match, light a candle, or gaze at a flame, do not see only combustion. See the eternal fire that the ancients saw, a bridge between worlds, a teacher of transformation, a reminder that within the smallest spark lies the power of the cosmos. For as long as fire burns, so too does the light of the human spirit.